Are you ready to learn the truth about your fears? They may not be enemies, but your best friends. Look at the sea. The roaring waves seem to whisper about what keeps you tense. It seems that behind this serene landscape, there is something more than just silence. How many times have you sipped coffee, gazing at the waves and thinking they would bring you peace? But what if the answers to your long-forgotten questions are hidden in those very waves? The hero, standing by the window of an old wooden house, feels the wind bringing scents of the past. Is it memories or premonitions? Each sip of cold coffee reminds him of how to distract himself from what truly matters. He asks himself, why do I avoid this inner storm? Why don't I allow myself to be vulnerable? In thoughts about what was missed, what was lost, he begins to understand. Freedom comes not from avoiding pain, but from embracing it. At that moment, the sea seems to respond to him. Its waves grow louder, as if they are calling him to meet himself. In each splash, he starts to recognize his fears. They no longer seem threatening, rather they remind him of what he once loved. The wind whispers of hope and the possibility of change. What if I allow myself to be different? The hero wonders. This could be the path to the peace he has dreamed of, or an opportunity to peer into the abyss of his doubts and emerge with new understandings. He realizes that to truly heal, he must take a step towards himself, embrace his experiences rather than hide from them. The silence outside now feels like a blessing. It is not emptiness, but space for reflection and growth. Take this step with him and prepare for the answers hidden behind the forthcoming waves that will change your life forever. What if I told you that true peace might be an illusion? I came here to this secluded corner to escape the urban hustle, the endless clamor of cars and crowds. I expected silence wrapping me like a blanket to forget about stress and worries. But here it is, silence. It is not silent. It sounds much louder than the noise I left behind. Around me is only nature, but even it has its own sounds. The wind's rustle embraces the trees, and every second of silence is filled with anticipation. I suddenly realize peace is not merely the absence of sounds. It is a state that must be earned. It does not come by itself. I listen to my breath, to the beating of my heart, as if it were the only rhythm in this place. And suddenly I understand that despite the yearning for peace, the inner dialogue does not cease. How strange that in trying to rest, we still cannot switch off. My mind revolves around thoughts of what I've left behind. Tasks, obligations, how to return to this noisy world. But can peace truly exist if it is always under control? I began this journey with hope for silence, but it seems to have become just a backdrop for my inner turmoil. How difficult it is to simply be here and now. What happens when the outside world seems as unsettled as you are? The first night by the sea. The hero lies in a chujaya bed, the sound of the waves sadly crashing against the shores as if they were seeking peace. Every movement of the water resonates in his heart, reminding him of the anxieties he hoped to leave on land. He can't fall asleep. His thoughts slip away like nighttime shadows on the walls. It seems as if the sea knows his fears. It whispers them in the rhythm of its endless surf. The pounding waves, like the beats of his heart, grow louder, and with each new splash he feels his soul contract into a knot. How strange it is to hear nature sing about his inner state. He sighs, trying to calm the storm within. It's not just noise, it's his anxiety intertwined with the ocean's depths. He gets out of bed, step by step, approaching the window. It's dark outside, but he feels how each whisper of the water carries him to a place where he doesn't have to worry. The small ripples he feels accumulate into a massive flow, and together they create a picture of his heart, a metacorazo. Everything around him is a parallel reality where he can be free. Gradually, the sounds begin to immerse him in a state of meditation. He realizes that the remaining fears are just an illusion. He laughs, and this laughter, along with the cries of seagulls, dissolves into the night. Such is the difference between agitation and calm, like between a gentle surf and a terrible storm. He lies down again, but now hope grows in his heart. Instead of steps backward, it's a step forward to a new beginning. It's only the first night, and he doesn't yet know that the sea will teach him not just to listen, but to understand. What if I told you that everything you strive to control might actually be an illusion? In the darkness of the night, when the world stands still and falls asleep, our thoughts begin to wander, and they can lead us to a place where we meet ourselves. Imagine you are standing on the shore, a little boy building your first sand dam. You poured all your dreams and efforts into it. Every clump, every stroke is a symbol of your struggle, your control over nature. But here comes the unpredictable wave, looming with silent threat, and as soon as it touches the dam, everything you built crumbles in an instant. This is the moment when a cold feeling of hopelessness grips you. How could it be expected that all your effort would be washed away so easily? Why, despite all the efforts, did you want to control what is by nature uncontrollable? And here the question arises, is it worth fighting against what is inevitable? Every pebble, every decision is a feeling of control, but in reality it is just an illusion. How many times in life have you reconstructed your dam? How many lives have you tried to build only to see the waves sweep everything away? This is not just a metaphor. It is what happens within each of us when our confidence collides with reality. Learn to let go. Learn to accept. We crave control, but nature knows none. Allow yourself to see that fighting the unpredictable is only part of our fear. Our true strength lies in acceptance. In this realization lies the possibility of inner liberation. Perhaps when we understand that not everything in life is within our control, we begin to truly live. So let us stop building dams on the shore of the ocean of life and learn to swim in its boundless waters, understanding that there is beauty in chaos. What if I told you that even in sleep you cannot escape your thoughts? Suddenly opening his eyes, he jumps out of bed, his heart pounding as if it just burst from his chest. Inside, everything is raging like a storm in the open ocean. Even here, I can't find peace. Sleepless nights and anxious thoughts take over once again. He clenches his fists, trying to calm the growing indignation. Arguments with himself escalate into cries, and he begins pushing away the mounting tension. He mentally rolls through each mistake, each one cutting as sharply as a cold wind on his face. Why did I let this happen? Why couldn't I control myself? His gaze flickers around the room, searching for solace, but nothing helps. Every corner seems like an enemy, every sound a reminder that he cannot simply take and forget. Who needs a life like this? He sighs, feeling the sweat trickle down his forehead as if the inner fire is not going to extinguish. The moment when he thought everything was behind him turns once again into despair. Weary, he settles on the edge of the bed, feeling the space around him constrict to the limit. Moments pass, but the path to tranquility is still closed. The same question echoes in his head over and over. When will I find my peace? What if I told you that there is a place where time stands still, and wisdom is carried by the wind? Before us stands a lighthouse, a majestic structure washed by waves standing at the edge of the world. There at its summit lives a woman, the guardian of light. Her eyes reflect the endless ocean abyss. She is silent, like nature itself, but in her presence there is a confidence that is beyond time. I ascend to her, the wind whistling in my ears, and my heart beats in the rhythm of anticipation. Suddenly, everything around us falls silent and we are left alone. I, the seeker, and she, the knowledge. I study her as if trying to unravel a riddle. How do you contain your light without casting it into the world? She smiles but says not a word. Her silence fills the space like an invisible pull. This is not just silence. It is wisdom hidden in every glance she gives. In such moments you realize that sometimes words are unnecessary. One encounter is enough to change a life. I begin to ask questions about the storm she has endured, about the secrets that the seas hold. Her answers, absent in words, become a truth that penetrates my soul. Every moment with her feels like a lesson as the world around becomes less important than the inner self, inspired by her presence. Next to her, I feel vulnerable, but in this vulnerability lies strength. The understanding that true answers lie within us opens new horizons. Perhaps she herself is the lighthouse, a light that points the way in the darkest times. If only I could take her wisdom and carry it further like a sunbeam that melts winter ice, everything would be different. I say goodbye to her, but her image remains in my heart, like a lighthouse in the night, always ready to guide the way back to myself. What if I told you that our perception of time and space is just an illusion? Remember how you look at the sea as it rolls onto the shore. In those moments when the wave breaks from a height and rushes towards you, it seems like everything stops. Mentally, we can prepare, fear, argue with ourselves, but the sea asks nothing. It just comes. Each new day brings us a wave of changes, and often we refuse to accept them. We prefer to stay in our comfort zone even when we know we need to move on. By acknowledging this truth, we can notice how many opportunities slip away from us due to fear of the unknown. When I look at the boundless horizon, I am struck by a sense of quiet defiance. This unknown force, like the sea, can wash away all obstacles from our path if we only allow it into our lives. It is important to remember the sea does not wait. It does not tolerate uncertainty and does not let us defer our dreams. Sometimes we need to realize that there is strength in moving towards new horizons. And this strength lies not in readiness, but in the courage to accept what comes. Your heart knows that the only way to let the sea into your life is to take a step towards the unknown, even if you are unsure of what awaits you. As scary as it sounds, it is in this moment that true life happens. What if I told you that each of us carries an inner child that yearns for freedom and simple joys? The beach was filled with an atmosphere of complete tranquility, where the waves quietly whispered their secrets to the shore. I sat on the sand, watching as the bright sun painted golden reflections on the water, and suddenly my attention was drawn to children eagerly building sandcastles. Their faces shone with happiness, their hands enthusiastically kneading the sand, each time adding a new detail to their creations. These castles are not just structures, they are symbols of their dreams and hopes, slipping away in the whirlwind of growing up. How wonderful it is to witness their genuine excitement. They are not afraid to fail, for each unsuccessful attempt is simply a step towards something great. I pondered, when was the last time I allowed myself to be as carefree? Somewhere between worries and responsibilities, I lost that sincere flow of creativity. Memories of my own childhood, of bright moments on the beach, enveloped me. At that moment, looking at those sandcastles, I realized that we all have the right to return to ourselves, to who we were, to what we dreamed of. The sand beneath my feet reminded me of those simple joys that we sometimes forget. Oh, how many there are! To build castles from sand, to laugh, to dance under rainbows, to feel every moment of the present. These children teach me an important lesson. Life is not always about achieving results. Sometimes it's worth simply enjoying the process without looking back at who we should become. My heart filled with warmth as I realized that this simple scene could be a starting point for my return to myself. I, too, want to build my castles, create, dream, and rejoice in every moment. The journey within myself begins with the realization that it's time to become that joyful child again, ready for adventures. What if I told you that sometimes we build walls around ourselves waiting for the storm to pass? We hide under a roof thinking it will protect us, misguidedly expecting the external storm to subside. But who said we need to wait? Why not learn to breathe in the whirlwind of life instead of lurking in the shadows of our fears? Imagine, we stand on the shore looking at the stormy sea, and every time a wave crashes over us, we scream and fight against it, instead of simply learning to swim in its flow. Our lives are full of uncertainty, but it is in that uncertainty that huge opportunities lie. Why be afraid when you can trust? Why hide when you can dance in the rain? When I started to reflect on this, I realized the storm is not the enemy. It is a teacher that introduces us to ourselves. Every wave crash strengthens us. Every gust of wind opens new horizons. So why are we still waiting for the opportunity to be stronger? Why not take the first step towards our fears and start breathing in this storm, accepting it as part of our journey? The question is not how to weather the hurricane, but how to learn to swim in its turbulent waters. Don't let fear stop you. You are capable of learning this. Guess what I found in my old house? A diary. Its pages had gathered dust for so long that they seemed to be infused with the breath of time. The corners of the sheets curled up as if trying to hide their secrets. The first thing that catches the eye is the neat handwriting, as if carved from paper. "I am afraid of the sea," the author writes. The words seem to gain weight, and I feel the disease of loneliness creeping into each letter. What could be scarier than the endless water horizon? And loneliness is forever, like the waves that endlessly roll onto the shore, leaving no trace. The diary becomes a window into another reality where fears are tangible beings. And the sea is not just a force of nature, but a way of life, full of unfulfilled hopes. As I immerse myself in the entries, I realize that these feelings are familiar not only to the author, they live in each of us. In every moment when we leave ourselves outside of comfort, when we strive for something greater, but fear losing what we already have. The story I am reading is not new, but there is something in it that touches deeper. I look at the sea and see loneliness. I hear its whisper in every wave, in every splash of water against the stones. These words seem to be written for me. I wonder what fears haunt me. What does my own diary keep silent about? Do we all carry within us the same fears recorded on the pages of life? Perhaps the fear of the sea is not just a phobia, but a reflection of our inner world, which often frightens us. I continue to read, and with each new entry I feel how experience becomes a cycle. An old soul passes its fears to the next generations, and perhaps that is why we are all here, to realize that fears can unite rather than divide. They bring us closer, no matter how paradoxical it may sound, for there is a piece of this story in each of us. What if I told you that the biggest struggle happens inside us? Anxiety is not just a fleeting feeling. It is a tide that lifts us to the surface, overwhelming us with waves. It seems impossible to stop it, but learning to swim in its turbulent waters is the real art. Imagine you are a ship, being tossed against a raging ocean. Every sharp turn, every sway is the fears, insecurities, and doubts pulling you down. But there is a way to cope with this. It is the ability to find your course in the storm, to feel every wave but not let it drown you. I remember the moment when passion for something suddenly shifts to paralyzing fear. In an instant, the whole world seems drained of color, leaving only the dark waters of anxiety. But it is precisely when we feel we are going to drown that we can learn not to resist these waves, but simply to float, to be fully in that moment. I have learned that the key to calmness is not avoiding the waves, but acknowledging their existence and your right to feel. They come and go like tides, and you can choose to swim against them or learn to navigate. It is a new path to understanding, a lesson that means every tide will bring its challenges, but also new opportunities. Thus, we reach a new level in how we perceive our anxiety. It is not an enemy. It is a compass pointing to what we need to pay attention to, what we must endure to grow. And when you learn to swim in these waters, you become stronger, braver, and more confident. What if I told you that each of us sometimes gets trapped by our own expectations? The hero stands before the mirror, his eyes looking at a reflection full of fatigue. He runs his hand across his face, not believing that this fatigue belongs to him. "Why am I struggling if I teach others?" he quietly utters, and there is laughter mingled with tears in his voice. Creating images of confident and successful people around him, he becomes a prisoner of his own beliefs. How strange it is to teach others to burn brightly when he himself has already extinguished. He understands that the professional mask he wears is empty and monotonous. It is merely a protective cocoon behind which hides a person who also wants to be heard. He remembers his students, their enthusiastic faces when he manages to ignite a spark in them. Yet he needs a spark too, for his has long been extinguished. "How could I think that I knew everything?" He laughs at himself, and this self-deprecating laughter breaks the silence in the room. He realizes that fleeting successes cannot mask the internal resistance. How often do we all, including myself, smile for the camera while a storm brews inside, he thinks, looking at his reflection. In that moment, he makes a decision. No more hiding behind the mask. No more pretending that everything is perfect while experiencing fears in the shadows. The true path begins with honesty towards oneself. From that moment on, he is ready to seek his light, even if it gets lost in endless reflections. What if I tell you that loneliness crashes upon us even in the most crowded places? A nighttime walk along the pier. The wind tears away the last remnants of warmth from your chest, and the boards beneath your feet creak like sturdy bridges that no longer lead anywhere. Each step immerses you in your own gloomy thoughts, leaving only the echo of longing. There is no sound around except for the ghostly whisper of waves lapping at the shore. They sound like old stories that no one wants to hear. The light of the lanterns dims, and instead, anxiety chokes you. It feels as if you are alone in this vast water expanse, with only the outlines of your reflection on the rippling surface. That's all that remains. It's as if the pier itself has become your silent witness, sharing this agonizing sense of isolation with you. You instinctively search for someone to share this moment. But all around is the dull roar of the ocean and your own stagnant thoughts. Where does time go when no one is watching? What will happen if you pause this endless walk for a moment and look back into the past, to lost tendernesses and forgotten hopes? The night pulls you in, leaving only the emptiness in which only secret fears are reflected. But are you really that lonely? Or is it just an illusion created by the dark waves? It seems that long ago dreams whispered to you about bright horizons, and now they simply dissolve in the salty air. Fears mixed with the wind are carried away somewhere far, and you still wait for someone to bring you back to life. And yet, by staying with yourself, you understand. This road cannot end in silence alone. Perhaps it is in these moments when the heart feels its vulnerability, when the quiet whisper of what might have been becomes a silent scream within, that true awakening begins. What if I told you that your main weapon against anxiety is yourself? You are standing at a crossroads. Fear envelops you and every step feels heavier than the last. The wind whispers as if it knows your secrets. But in reality, the biggest enemy lives inside you. It is your inner voice. You are not afraid of the future. You are afraid of not being ready. Listen to how it sounds. It is filled with doubt and uncertainty. Every time you try to make plans, this voice raises questions. What if it all doesn't work out? What if you fail? It seems to be a protective reaction, but in fact, it is a prison for your dreams. Remember the last time you faced an important choice. Put yourself in the shoes of someone who doesn't know what to do. Fear surrounds him like smoke, and he is suffocating from uncertainty. But deep down, he knows that the main danger is not in the future, but in the present state, in the fear of not being ready. You can recall success stories where people, forgetting fear, stepped into the unknown. They were not ready. They simply believed in themselves. You can too. Can you learn to trust yourself? It is not a question. It is a necessity. Imagine that inner voice becoming your ally. Instead of warnings, it gives you motivation and support. You are capable of more. You hear it now? It is important to understand that fear is not an enemy, but a familiar friend who is just waiting to be embraced. It will help you recognize your true desires and aspirations. This is the first step to preparing for a future that will surely be better than the present. The time has come. Look within yourself and allow your inner voice to become your guide to the future. Are you ready? What if I told you that tears can be the beginning of something new? The morning light streams through the curtains, gently touching his face. He sits on the edge of the bed in the silence of his room and suddenly freezes in the moment. Tears, like streams, slowly run down his cheeks, and he doesn't mind. This vulnerable, completely honest moment becomes catharsis. He remembers how long he struggled with an inner battle, how he fought against the dark shadows of his experiences. But now, finally, comes the realization. It's okay to feel. It's okay to be hurt. He embraces his weaknesses as part of his story, like pages he could read aloud without hiding. These tears are not just bitterness, they are cleansing. Every drop is like a stone falling off his soul. This world, which once seemed gray and joyless, begins to fill with colors. He opens his heart to new possibilities. The warmth of the morning sun embraces him as if confirming that every end is a new beginning. He breathes in, and the world around him fills again with sounds. A choir of singing birds, the rustling of leaves outside. This is not just a morning. This is a new beginning. With these tears, the old leaves making room for hope. And he understands only by accepting his emotions can he step onto a new path. With each breath he weighs his words as if filling every moment with the power of change. And then he lifts his head, no longer ashamed of his tears, but proudly accepting them as part of himself. This moment pierces him. He is ready to move on, ready to face the world with an open heart. Do you know what real fear is? It's not what we think. It's not the darkness looming over us, nor the worry about tomorrow. Fear is the resistance that we create within ourselves. We spend years running away from it, but what if I told you that all you need to do is simply stop and accept it? After all, fear is a teacher that shows us where we are not yet ready. It becomes a companion when we move towards new horizons. Here you stand at the brink, at the lighthouse whose light illuminates the way, but its beam casts a shadow right over you. This is the shadow of your fears. You can resist and try to hide, like a foolish little turtle retreating into its shell. But that is only a temporary refuge. True strength comes when you accept your fear, embrace it, and understand that it is part of you. It's like a surfboard. Sometimes the waves throw you off, but once you learn to ride them, you can not only stay afloat, but also soar. You have no idea what it's like to be free from the burden you've placed on yourself. You don't need to get rid of fear. You need to stop opposing it with all your might. Stop hiding. Step into the light, open your doors, and embrace your fears like an old friend. This is transformation. Remember, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to move forward despite it. This is the path to liberation. When you stop being afraid, you start to live. So open your heart and make peace with the fact that you don't need to hide from the storms. They will teach you how to fly. What if I told you that the most important step in your life is merely a step into the unknown? The sun is almost setting, warming the golden surface of the sea. The wind plays with his hair, as if calling him. He stands at the edge of the restless shore, feeling the cold water touch his feet, as if inviting him in. With each moment, the cold penetrates him to the bone, piercing the depths of his soul. But the more he wants to leave, the stronger the inner voice becomes, whispering, "Stay." Breath catches. Heart races as if refusing to move forward. Shadows gather around him, but he feels every cell in his body beginning to respond to this challenge. He knows it's not just water, it's life, it's experience, it's risk. Fear and courage intertwine, creating a dazzling cocktail of emotions. The moment he makes his decision, he doesn't just dive into the sea, he dives into the very idea of trusting life. Letting go of all fears, losing the shore, he begins to move slowly and confidently into the depths. The water embraces him, immersing him in a surreal world where there are no obstacles, no boundaries, only pure freedom. He realizes that taking risks leads to true enlightenment, to the light that was hidden beneath the surface. And now, taking a deep breath, he dives deeper, leaving all doubts behind. Each drop of water is a new confidence, a new understanding. He trusts life, and life responds in kind. What happens if we stop the escape? The underwater world is a sky without borders, where the waves whisper my thoughts. The sea does not demand certainty. It only asks that I do not run away. In this boundless space where light plays melodies with floating bubbles, I realize to be here means to be real. Each breath is filled with water, but within me is freshness and calm. How strange that I searched for answers on the surface, where the air is full of noise and hustle. Underwater silence is like a cozy conversation with myself. I feel the depth embracing me, allowing me to dissolve into eternity. Here, nothing demands from me ambition or triumph. The sea laughs when I refuse the race. Instead, I simply swim. Some believe that confidence is the key to everything, but perhaps it is more important to simply learn to let go. Every stroke of the arm, every diving drop of water is an act of acceptance. I do not strive for victories, I merely whisper my desires to the waves. Every movement changes my inner structure, rewriting the rules that were previously set. Here, among corals and fish, I feel fear dissolve. Water has taught me not to run means to be free. I am nowhere, but it does not matter. I choose to simply be, flowing with the current. Isn't it amazing to realize that the greatest victories lie not in achieving, but in accepting the everyday as it is? And so when I rise to the surface, I return with new knowledge. The underwater world is my language, and silence is my philosophy. I contradict familiar patterns. True strength lies in the ability to be vulnerable and to maintain resilience when the world tries to pull me into its whirlpools. The sea accepts me as I am, and this is my new reality. What if I told you that the anxiety you feel may have its roots in events from early childhood? A little boy in a bright swimsuit happily jumping into the bright expanse of water, surrounded by the laughter of friends. A surge of waves knocks him down, and he plunges into the cold embrace, losing his bearings. Water fills his lungs, tears stream down his cheeks mixed with sea salt. And then, in the dark depths, he hears his father's voice. "You need to be careful." What does it mean to be careful? These words echo in his mind like a spell. He tries to swim to the surface, but fear grips him. It is this moment that shapes his fears, his anxiety. With each passing day, with every new situation, he becomes increasingly convinced that the world is full of dangers hidden behind seemingly harmless moments. These memories leave a mark on his entire life, and every time he feels he is losing control, his heart skips a beat, and that bitter phrase echoes in his head. You need to be careful. But this is not just a childhood lesson. This is the first anxiety that affects every step he takes, making him doubt himself, worry about little things, and fear the future. How often do we become prisoners of such childhood trauma ourselves? Can he change it if he realizes where his anxieties come from? What happens when you stop limiting yourself? The hero's eyes silently fixate on the horizon, where the sky gently blends with the ocean. The sea, like a blank page, offers peace and freedom. Silence reigns around, only the soft whisper of waves brushes against his thigh. In this moment, he feels how each breath fills him from within, as if he is becoming part of this natural symphony. The wind gently caresses his face, carrying away all worries and doubts. His heart beats in unison with the rhythm of the sea, where there is no room for concern. The hero closes his eyes, allowing his thoughts to disperse like clouds in the sky. Each wave is an opportunity, a chance to move forward, to let go of the old and embrace the new. His inner silence reflects like a mirror the calm serenity he has long awaited. The camera slowly pulls back, depicting the grandeur of the space that unfolds around him. In this moment, all boundaries dissolve. He understands. It is here, among the endless waters, that his true journey begins. What if I'd tell you that life is not just a storm, but the gentle breath of the sea itself? Every morning when we open our eyes, we find ourselves once again faced with a choice: to go with the flow or to become the captain of our ship. We often yearn for tumultuous winds and high waves, wanting to reach our goals faster, forgetting that sometimes it is the calm and silence that bring clarity and inspiration. Imagine you stand on the shore looking at the horizon where the sea meets the sky. The sounds of the waves soothe you, and in that moment you realize that life is not a race but a journey. Each moment is a precious gift that should be cherished. Perhaps we should learn to hear not only the cries of the wind but also the whisper of the water, inviting us to be more attentive to ourselves and the world around us. How much time do we spend striving for success, forgetting the simple joy of being here and now? And so, in the end, does life become an endless struggle for us, or a wonderful dance in the rhythm of the waves? Now think. What if life is not a storm, but the breath of the sea itself that simply needs to be allowed to be? Do you know that sometimes the biggest enemy is yourself? We can spend months or even years trying to follow the rules, controlling every step, straining our nerves in the hope that everything will soon fall into place. But what if I told you that our true weakness lies in that very pursuit of control? I remember the moment I realized this. Sitting by the shore in silence, I let my thoughts slip away from me. The water rolled peacefully over the stones, and while distractedly watching it, I suddenly understood that in the struggle with myself I was losing everything. I was trying to hold on to my fears, my doubts, as if those chains could give me strength. But as soon as I let them go, freedom arrived. It may seem strange, but it is in our fleeing from ourselves that true liberation occurs. Peace doesn't come when we fight the waves. It comes when we learn to swim. Each of us has the right to be weak, to make mistakes, to experience. And the sooner we accept this, the sooner the doors to truth will open. Now I understand. Peace doesn't come when everything is under control. It comes when I stop fighting. Do you know that true unity with life is possible in the most unexpected moments? Rising above the house, the camera unfolds an endless horizon before us. The sun gently shines on the calm waves of the sea that seem to embrace the shore. This moment is a symbol of harmony. Seagulls soar in the sky, gracefully dancing in the warm wind. We see the hero, his heart filled with tranquility. He has reunited with nature and himself, feeling every breath. In this moment, he realizes that all the trials, all the sufferings have only prepared him for this unreal joy, for this feeling of unity that is now forever with him. And only now, in the embrace of nature and serenity, does he understand that life is not just passing by. It exists in every moment, in every breath, in every glance at the sea. Just as he sought this peace, you too can find your harmony. This is just the beginning of his true life, a life filled with light and love.